And now, the Android Basics segment. This is a segment where we discuss the things that power your device from behind the scenes. And now, here's this week's episode, Android Basics. Let's now move on to the Android Basics. And today, of course, we're talking about radio apps. There are several out there. And as always, though, we talk about these things, and there are certain things that we're looking for in a radio app. If you're me, that's my preference. There are a couple of things that I look for in a radio app, or maybe especially one feature that stands out of all the features that I'm looking for in a radio app. For me, it has to do with that capability of recording. If that thing does not record, I'm not going to make it my favorite app, radio app. So let's talk about these things. Sally, let's start with you. When we talk about radio apps, which ones, name some of the ones that are your favorites, the ones that you have on your list as the most favorite ones that you like to use. Like I say, for me, the one feature that I look forward to is the ability to record.
Yeah, being able to record is something really important for me as well. And I want to be able to know what track is being played. It's like it should be supporting the track IDs of the currently playing songs. So that's the most important part for me. And what I like is being able to browse countries, languages, networks. So this is really important. Being a radio guy, I love listening to different radios from different countries. Sometimes I turn on a radio station from Vietnam. I told you, sometimes I turn on one from Egypt, or it depends. Just any country comes to my mind. Just want to know how the people are doing in that particular area. I just want to feel the atmosphere, like what songs they are listening to, what they're talking about, even though I don't understand the language. I just want to, yeah.
That's really fun, though. Maybe something like Cambodia or Laos or some crazy place like that you have no idea as to what the language is, and you just want to hear that language and what it sounds like.
They're talking a lot of they're talking a lot of things. Maybe they don't make any sense, but for me, it's super interesting. Maybe they're reading the news, or I don't know, they're just talking to each other about daily affairs. But for me, it's super interesting. After sometimes they play the song and then come back to the conversation again.
And you're actually correct, because if a radio app doesn't have too many countries or too many stations, then probably it's not, something one want to bother with. And we always talk about TuneIn. Of course, TuneIn removed that ability to record, right, guys? I no longer see it in that. But to me, it seems like TuneIn still has the most stations, I think, because it's always been there first, and it's kind of was very familiar with a lot of people or whatever, and countries. And so lots of stations are still on there. But then some of the good ones, very good competitors, though, do not have as much stations like TuneIn has, but they have features that TuneIn does not have, and yet TuneIn keeps adding more and more stuff that I don't care about.
The problem with TuneIn is that they had an issue with the cultural authority here in Turkey, so accessing TuneIn Radio Network is no longer possible for some licensing issues. So therefore, we need to use alternatives. So my favorite is VRadio. It's a great app. You got to try it.
VRadio is a good one, and I think we had a demonstration of that on our side, and you also have it on accessible Android, don't you? I think so.
Exactly, we do, yeah.
And I think another one is Radio G. Both of these, as well as Cloud Radio. And there's another one that I use often, and it's because it supports some TV stations, and that would be the AudialsPlay. And that seems to be the one that I've been using the most, because when I want to listen to Newsmax, for example, it's the only one I could find Newsmax on. And so I listen to Newsmax, even though it's a TV station. So I've been using that a lot. But yeah, I think that we have France to thank for the removal of the recording capability of TuneIn Radio, because I remember it was France that complained about that recording, and so TuneIn removed that. And ever since, I very, very seldom use TuneIn Radio. And for me, it's not because I'm recording songs or things of that nature. I'm mostly someone that like to use it for, say, listening to talk radio and stuff. And now and then, you have guests that are being interviewed about books. And so I like to record that so I could look for the book later on. And that's the reason why I like to record my radio shows.
You know what, Warren? I'm on like one of the you know me that I'm using Android for a really long time since ever I was able to remove my battery. So
When you couldn't hang up the call.
Yeah. So like from those days, what I remember is that TuneIn Radio had a pro version with one-time purchase, but after a couple of years, they changed it to premium, and then I felt like I'm giving up on that. So after a couple of years more, for the licensing issues, it's no longer here in Turkey. So VRadio has a premium version, and it supports recording, and it also has a list of track IDs. For example, if you're listening to some songs and you don't know what song was playing 2 songs before your current song, you can go back in history and you can find out what song was playing, and you can go and search on Spotify, search on YouTube. Those are the great options on VRadio. So that definitely worth paying for, and it's one time.
Yeah, well, the TuneIn Radio still has the Pro, which is still $10, $9.99. Now, when they talk about premium, what they're talking about, though, they want you to, if you want to access things like baseball, or you want to access things like audiobooks and some other features, or if you want to be able to skip ads that radio stations play, or things of that nature. For me, it really doesn't bother me, but really, I think that the one big deal breaker for me with TuneIn has to do with that removal of that recording capability, and I've just kind of turned my back on it. I mean, of course, they support podcasts and things like that, but yeah, I don't know. TuneIn, it still has the most stations, like I said. But yeah, your VRadio and Radio G, Cloud Radio, the AudialsPlay that I was talking about, all of these allow for recording. John, let's talk about you, my man. John, you kind of like radio stations. I know you're a sports guy. Take us down that road. Are there some of these apps that give you the stations you like on sports?
So,
I know that's kind of a
so
hard
I'll
one.
start with TuneIn because that's what you guys were talking about. So I'm glad they have the Pro version still, because it's like you already mentioned, it's just a one-time fee. It doesn't get you extra content. So with premium, you get sports, you get more sports, there's all kinds of extras you get. Like you even get audiobooks. They have a library of like 100,000 audiobooks. So they're continuously adding to the premium library. But if you just want to pay that $10 to never have pre-roll ads, you still can. That's what I like about having TuneIn Plus. And of course, you can use both TuneIn Plus and TuneIn Premium together, because those ads, man, radio stations are the worst when it comes to ads, right? So there's nothing worse than like having to sit there and listen to like 3 pre-roll ads, and then when this radio station actually starts, you're in the middle of a commercial break, and then you have to listen to more ads. So yeah, I think it's worth the $10 to if you do like TuneIn, it's definitely worth the $10 to get TuneIn Pro. Or is it Plus? Yeah,
it's the Pro. I have the Pro, which was purchased a long time ago. But
yeah, it's still just
the
$10.
Plus is the better one. Gives you all the good stuff. But I don't have that.
But yeah, premium has gone up recently. It used to be $10. Now it's up to $13. So that is an option for sports. Now, it's probably different in every country, so I'm only speaking for the US. The reason I don't use TuneIn Premium anymore is because they no longer have the NFL rights. They have a whole bunch of other sports and college sports, which is important to me, but I also want to get NFL along with it, especially if I'm going to be paying $13 a month. So I don't use TuneIn now. But the one last thing I'm going to say about TuneIn, if you want to try to use it, make sure you do not use audio ducking, because it's absolutely horrible with audio ducking. It completely like ruins the experience. It'll feel like the app is broken because it does the thing where instead of just lowering the volume, it'll pause the thing and then unpause it. And sometimes it will like take a few seconds to even pause it or unpause it. And then you're just sitting there like, is my app broken? Like, so definitely turn off audio ducking and talk back if you want to use TuneIn. So that's all I have to say about that. So for me, radio is basically sports. Like I don't use it for music. I don't use it for news. I get that stuff elsewhere. But I do use radio for sports. And right now, what I'm using is Sirius XM. It's $10 a month normally, just for the app streaming. Obviously, if you have it in a car, it's much more expensive. But if you just want to stream it in the app, it's $10 a month. And of course, you can get all kinds of promotions, and you can milk the promotions. I have this routine where I just like when my current promotion's about to expire, I pretend I'm going to cancel, and then they offer me like, how about you just
3 months more
paying like $5 a month instead of $10 a month for the next 12 months. And I'm like, okay. And they're not locking me into anything. They're just keeping me up. So yeah, I don't think it's been a while since I've actually paid $10 a month for it, but that is what I currently use. And I don't have any issues with SiriusXM at all as far as accessibility. It's a good app. I mean, it has its quirks like any other app, but you can do everything. It's not confusing or anything like that.
You mentioned accessibility, and that's another key one for those of us who are blind now. Some of these things that we mentioned here are very accessible or very usable, I should say. Some may have maybe an unlabeled button here and there. Looking at maybe cloud radio, I don't remember, but I demonstrated these things on our channel there on YouTube, so you could look those things up and see which one has the most accessibility and all of that. But all of them, they're very usable, and we like these programs. And so the TuneIn again one more time before I move away from TuneIn and get tune out of it, is that TuneIn, it's just kind of getting more and more stuff, but yet in the same breath, it's just kind of all that inability to record if you're like me. But it's so funny though that John, you like your sports and I like my news, and it's funny how we all like different things and what we like radio programs for or radio apps for. And I'm glad we have those things that we could choose. And if there's someone something that someone is looking for is not in another app, one could look it up in another app. And so that's the good thing about it. And I think that when it's all said and done, TuneIn is still the king on the hill when it comes to the number of stations. Like Sally, now and then I like to look at other countries just for giggles to see what it sounds like.
One more thing I wanted to say for people in the U.S. who are NFL fans, if your sole purpose is to listen to NFL games, you can actually subscribe to NFL Plus in the NFL app, and that's only $7 a month, and that will get you all the NFL games. And you don't have to like commit to a year or anything. You can only just subscribe during the season and then cancel it when the season's over if you want to. So if you were going to consider subscribing to SiriusXM for $10 just for NFL games, keep in mind that you can do it directly from the NFL through the NFL app if you want to. And the app, I do use the app. I haven't used it for listening to the radio, so I can't say for 100% certain that it would be completely accessible, but the NFL app in general does work good enough for me when I'm trying to watch videos and stuff in it.
So, Joan, I got a question since you're into sports. Are there any radio stream for NBA games?
So, similar. So, TuneIn has it. If you subscribe to TuneIn Premium, XM Radio has it. They basically have all the major sports in the U.S. and college, with the exception of, for whatever reason, TuneIn stopped being able to have the NFL games. But yeah, usually if you want an easy way to just have access to all the NBA games, something like SiriusXM would be a good choice. I don't think there's a free option out there that I know of.
You know, the surprising thing is that I think maybe because I hate subscriptions and all of that, and you know, I'm thinking here you're paying $10 a month or you know $13 a month, and for me, I always look at it from the lens of a year subscription, and in a year, I'm paying $130, and that $130 or whatever. Oh, actually, that's more than $130. What am I talking about? Right? You know, let's say 13 times 12. John, you're the mathematician here. Just, I was lousy at math.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at that, and I'm like, that's a lot of moolah going out the window. You know, close to maybe $150 or whatever the case may be. And so that's why I don't like subscriptions. I'm sorry, guys, but you know, everyone is kind of turning into subscriptions, and they can get overwhelming after a while. And so I'm not very keen on all of these subscriptions.
The good thing about subscriptions, at least in most cases, is that you don't have to commit to a year. So especially if it's something for sports, you can only do it for a few months. Like so I don't even do YouTube TV anymore because it's gotten so expensive. But even when I did YouTube TV, I would only do it during football season. Like I'd pay September through December, and then I'd cancel it. Like I don't need TV until next September. So I mean, that's the good thing about these services, streaming services and radio services these days, is they don't lock you in like everybody used to always try to lock you in, you know, with these cable services and stuff like that. So I'm glad that, you know, contracts at least are a thing of the past.
So it does make sense, you know, if you're into NFL, for example, then, you know, you just subscribe during those NFL months. And then when it's over, then you say goodbye to baby, send it back home to mama. Karen girl, let's talk about you. You know, you're a girl, you like radio apps, or, you know, sometimes maybe girls don't care about radio. I don't know. I can say maybe you care about TV. I have no clue. What do you like?
I don't care about both, actually, to be honest. I'm neither the radio person nor the TV person. Actually, although I don't care about radio, and I don't actually, a year might pass before I check a radio station. But despite that, I have 2 radio apps always on my phone. The VRadio that Saleh already mentioned. And one thing that I want to talk about, and I like in VRadio, is the ability to select the type of ads that you receive if you're using the free version, which is something that not all app developers give you, and it's something really important. So you can, for example, tell the app not to use the full screen video ads. So it will just show you the ads in this the ads that are on the screens only, without having a full screen ad every now and then. And you can also, the default actually is to have the full screen ads from time to time. So this is something that I really like about this app. And another app I use, or actually I have on my phone without using, is the, actually this app has a way of dealing with radios in, like, they give you several apps. You have an app for Arabic radios, for example. You have an app for the UK. You have an app for other countries. So each country has its set of radio stations in an app. And then they have another app which includes all of the available radio stations. So if you want to have every country or every radio station from all the countries supported, you can install their app, their international app. And if you don't want that, you can just go for the app that is related to your country. So I like this approach. I think it helps some people, or some people just like this approach more than having an app that they will use. Actually, not all people are like you and Saleh. So some people just check their local radio stations, nothing more. So actually, this is the app strategy. And I will also, we will also put the link in the show notes. Actually, it was accessible. The last time I used it, it was accessible. They have ads, but to get rid of the ads, you must pay a one-time purchase, as far as I remember. So I'll just put the link, or I will just give you the link of the universal app, or the one that contains all of the radio stations, and you just check the developer, and you can get all of the other apps if you are more into this type of applications.
One last word about radio apps. I think that the most important thing is they should just keep on doing what they were doing earlier on when we get started with smartphones. Give us that local FM radio on the phone. I think some of the Motorola phones still do. And because if we have that, for example, if your local radio station carries maybe some sports, you should be able to listen to it, because it's just like grabbing your boombox or grabbing your Walkman and tune to the local station in your area and listening to the station there and listening to whatever sports is going on. Why can't we have that? I don't know why they've blocked that capability out. I think it's all greed. What do you guys say about that? And sometimes it kind of a little bit pisses me off.
Exactly. This is what I don't like. Yeah, ever since I was a kid, I used to listen to radio a lot. And when my very first smartphone had a radio, the Nokia, it had the radio. And I liked listening to local radio stations. Wherever I go, changing different cities, the radio stations changed. I like pretty local stations, the conversations and the music they play, the messages they read, the requests and everything in between. So those were the great times listening to local radio stations. Some of the local radio stations, they don't have an internet stream. Exactly. So I'm really missing out on those. So please, somebody give us the FM radio back. So speaking of that, we have an article on Accessible Android saying why this is happening and what phones still have the FM radio. So you can just, guys, check it out, and you can read the article on website.
Yeah, because you don't need internet access. I mean, it's just like carrying your Walkman in your pocket, and you want to listen to radio, just tune to that station. And I think the one thing that most of them used to do is that you needed a wired headset in order to be able to use it. I don't know if that still is the case, because it acts as an antenna.
Yeah, that is still the case for the few phones that do have it. You do need. You don't have to. Sometimes you don't have to use the earbuds or whatever are connected for sound, but you do have to have them plugged in, because it does use them as an antenna.
Yeah, but it's not necessary actually if they want it to be, because here we have a speaker. Actually, it's nothing, a Bluetooth speaker, just a cheap one. And it has, actually, because everything Chinese has a radio, because maybe you would get a cup and it would have a radio in it. So something so much famous with Chinese stuff. So the speaker has radio in it, and you don't need to connect anything. It just, actually, I was testing it maybe 2 days ago, and it was like, it was able to let me stream the radio stations. I was able to get good stations, a good amount of stations. So that was a good one. They actually said that if you want to have it, if we want the reception to be better, you can connect the micro USB cable. And but actually, I didn't need it during my testing. It was just the reception was good enough to let me listen to some radios, to some local radios here. So yeah, I think it's not really something that they can't deal with. But actually, it's something maybe because people aren't really caring about having radio receivers in their phones. So maybe the companies also don't care as well. So this could be the reason, actually.
Yeah, it's just an extra antenna they'd have to include in their phone that they don't want to include in their phone.
Talking about that, Karen, I have some Chinese headsets that have, radio built in, as well as an SD card, mini SD card, or micro SD card, I should say, that you could use. And so, yeah, these things are possible. It's just like I said, it's kind of greed. They don't want us to have access to it. I don't know what the case is, but I mean, I look at radio, though, as a means of communication. Maybe there's a tornado coming in your area. You live in the Midwest or somewhere in southern US. There's a tornado coming on, and the power has gone out. As we indicated earlier, you should be able to have access to that information. So I think really the governments around the world should make this a mandate. I mean, they're mandating a lot of things, and yet we overlook the very important things that we need to have on our phones. It's kind of silly. It's not every time that one has access to the internet.